Commissioner Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Sparza is excused. Commissioner Harrison
Present.
and Commissioner Lewis. Present. Commissioner Markowitz is also excused. Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
And Commissioner Udabi.
Present.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, you have a quorum present.
All right. Thank you, Director Todd. Moving on, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
There are none.
All right. As there are no amendments, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Support.
Thank you. Director Todd, can we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Bennett.
Yeah.
Commissioner Daniels.
Aye.
And Commissioner Harrison.
Support.
Commissioner Lewis.
Support.
Commissioner Russell.
Support.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
And Commissioner Udabi.
Yes.
All right. The motion passes to approve the agenda as presented. Next, we have the meeting minutes for September 19th, 2024. Looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. We'll do all in support of approving the September 19, 2024 minutes. Indicate your support with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all in opposition, sign of nay. Thank you. The meeting minutes for September 19, 2024 have been approved. Next, we have the 5:15 continued public hearing. We will recall that to the call of the chair. This is a request of the Great Lakes Water Authority to amend Article XVII, Section 50-1733, District Map Number 31 of the 2019 Detroit City Code, Chapter 50 zoning to show an R5 medium-density residential district or a PD Plan Development District zoning classification where an R2 two-family residential district zoning classification is shown at 700 Connor Street, 692 Connor Street, 686 Connor Street, 682, 678, 672 Connor Street, 703, 693, 687, 681, 675 Navajo Street, and the vacated Fraud Street and public alleys located between Connor Street and Navajo. Mr. Fazzini, will you be assisting us with this item this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to let the GLEWA representatives introduce themselves as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Naveed Maram, Chief Operating Officer for Wastewater Operations for Great Lakes Water Authority, and I'm joined here with Paul.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Commissioner. Paul Ransom, Lifecycle Project Manager for GLEWA.
Thank you. Thanks for coming this evening.
I have a presentation, Mr. Chair, if I may share my screen, and then GLEWA will follow with their presentation.
Yes, proceed whenever you're ready.
Okay, so the proposed rezoning site is located within City Council District 4 in the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood. Highlighted is the extent of Frood Street in this location. It stretches across 3 neighborhoods south of East Jefferson Avenue, from the Marina District to the west to Jefferson Chalmers to the east. The red circle is the proposed location of the pump station. This past July, City Council approved a reroute project for Frood Street for 3 blocks shown here. So the hatched curve is a bend that the new route would take to the north, and then the black areas are the portions of Frood Street that would be dissolved or removed to create a development site for the GLEWA project. Here's an aerial and zoning map of the area. The area is zoned primarily R2. To the bottom left of the image is the existing Frood pump station that is zoned R2. There's a former corner store that's since been demolished near the intersection. There's another corner store to the southwest. So this may have been a commercial node for the neighborhood historically, given that Frood is a collector between 3 neighborhoods. Some images from November. This is looking northwest at the development site and the portion of the road that would be removed and then rerouted to the north where the trucks are. We understand that the work occurring in this area now is utility work related to the road reroute project and not specifically to the proposed pump station. Another image looking north at the development site in the distance where that White House is. These are the adjacent homeowners to the south of the proposed development. House 235 there is owned by GLEWA and is within the footprint of the development, but the house to the next of that to the right, the white ranch with the white fence, is not within the development area and would be the first neighbor to the south on the Connor Street side. And then this is looking east down Frood from Clare Point. This is the existing Frood pump station, and then showing that it's one block from the proposed pump station. Quick background, the existing pump station was constructed in 1954. It's a combined station that manages both sanitary and stormwater. There are existing parallel relief sewers below Frood Street in this location, coming from Algonquin to the north and then Frood to the east. So this is, because these relief sewers parallel themselves here, this is what's brought GLEWA before you for the proposed development. And that development would allow GLEWA to do two things. First, and primarily, they would be able to isolate or block these two relief sewers from the existing pump station during dry weather so that the existing pump station can be maintained in service. And then the new proposed pump station would direct sanitary flow to the north down Navajo to the Detroit Regional Interceptor along Jefferson. So the zoning proposal is to rezone from R2 to R5. That's the first district that permits major utility pumping stations. If the rezoning is approved, conditional use approval would also be required. That includes site plan review. Sorry. And here's a image of that GLEWA's proposed site plan, including the rerouted Frood Street and then the site improvements. Quite a bit of greenery surrounding the immediate site. The building would be oriented to the west towards the existing pump station and would be 48 feet tall. There would be a fenced parking lot to the south, as well as bioretention along the perimeter and fencing around the site. It's unclear if these off-site improvements, the street trees and the landscaping, would be installed by GLEWA or the city. At the last meeting, it was discussed if there's an opportunity to add a small park at either end of the development. That would likely need to be pursued by a city department rather than GLEWA, so that can be discussed further if desired. And then during the vacation reroute process, there was significant engagement done by GLEWA, and there was a focus on the building design. So the images on the left are a previous building design that was proposed, mimicking the existing Frood station, and on the bottom right is a later rendering from this past summer with more brickwork and facade changes. So we understand that these are still working elevations. As well, GLEWA's had a series of ongoing meetings. They had a meeting this past December 11, and they'll have another community meeting at March 19. So we provided a status report to the commission. No staff recommendation provided at this time. There were two main points of discussion in November. First, if the proposed location is the only option for the project, and then second, how the proposal would help mitigate flooding. So GLEWA will hope to address these two items in their presentation, and a reminder that they've stated that there's a need for the proposed pump station to be as close to the existing pump station for effectiveness. So in our status report, we have a prompt for the commissioners that they may wish to discuss with GLEWA if it would be feasible to intercept the Fox Creek relief sewer in a different location, and how interception at a different location, potentially further away from the existing station, would impact servicing and maintaining the existing pumping station during dry weather. So looking at a little more detail along this train of thought, this is a sewer map, so this isn't to scale or showing street locations, but is intended to show the system in more detail. So both relief sewers that the proposed pump station would intercept originate to the north of East Jefferson Avenue. The Ashland relief sewer at the top, which I believe runs to 7 Mile and predates the Fox Creek relief sewer, which runs to the northeast. So there's an additional relief sewer called the Jefferson Avenue East Relief Sewer, and this carries combined flow from the Ashland Relief Sewer, the Fox Creek Relief Sewer, and the Mack Avenue Relief Sewer via the Fox Creek, and then the Fox Creek enclosure. So it kind of serves as a collector point for these four relief sewers, and then that takes flow down Jefferson Avenue to the Connor Creek pump station, which is shown with the bigger red circle. So we thought it might be productive to focus first or primarily on the Fox Creek relief sewer for discussion. This relief sewer, again, flows first to the Jefferson Avenue East relief sewer here to reach the Connor pump station. So it bypasses Frood under this scenario. A weir or a concrete wall exists within the Fox Creek relief sewer where it meets the Jefferson Avenue East relief sewer. So flow, which would be stormwater flow with a rain event, must top this weir to enter the Fox Creek relief sewer that flows to the south of Jefferson. So there's at this point there's appears to be two options for flow: first to Connor pump, and then if there's a greater level of flow, it would then cross over this weir to travel south to Jefferson. At that point, it would then enter the Frood pump station. So again, that's just a quick summary of our thinking with the status report. If that's something you'd like to discuss with GLEWA, that's all I have, and we'll turn it over to GLEWA for their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can just ask a brief question, because this is R2 to R5 or PD, can you kind of go over the pros and cons and differences between those two?
Yes, we're not really focused on PD at this point. That would be something that would involve additional criteria, an additional level of review, but it's an option that's available to the commission if that would be desired. And the main benefit of PD is that you can attach a site plan or development plan to the project as well as conditions. With this project, with pumping stations requiring conditional use approval, that would be a similar opportunity there, not through the commission, but through BSEED with the R5 conditional use. That would also include a site plan approval, and then they could attach conditions to the project through that process as well. But for master plan interpretation purposes, PDD only provided the interpretation for R5, not for PD. So we could look to do that at the next meeting if you'd like.
Okay. If others require it, I was just curious. And then I know in the last meeting we talked about the vacation that I think is currently taking place. And in this alternative scenario, if we kind of get into that, how would that vacation that kind of already is underway be impacted?
Yeah, it's a good point. We're not necessarily recommending or even stating that that's feasible to relocate the project for the purposes. It's more of a testing process or a thought process we would like to pursue with the commission to talk with GLEWA about how the system operates, what other locations, how that would impact the system, and Jefferson Chalmers specifically. So it's kind of still in the information gathering stage on on testing that.
Okay. And
the vacation's approved, so that could proceed regardless or separate of this project, but.
okay. Yeah, I think just to entertain the conversation, I would like to hear more about it. And if other commissioners feel the same, they can say so. So before we at least go to our guest here, does anyone else have any other questions? No? Okay. Go ahead. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I greatly appreciate the information that we received at the last meeting, and it kind of guided us on how we should go about presenting this. And I want to take a step back and kind of give more information about Great Lakes, our tributary area, how our system works. Then we'll dive into the project and then some of the community engagement that we have done as well, and try to connect some of the three major concerns that we have heard from the community through the several outreach events that we have had. And they really come down to three things. One is the location. Two is potential odors. and then finally the facade of the building. So I will speak to those as I'm presenting this as well, but I want to start with just getting right into what GLWA is and how we were established. So in 2014, GLWA, pursuant to the Public Act 233 of 1955, was established as a public authority for servicing the regional system. So this is an asset that before was all City of Detroit, and it was operated by DWSD. And the larger infrastructure that operates and serves the three communities, or the three counties, and some outside of the tri-county areas, were separated out. So taking the larger regional infrastructure and assigning it to GLWA to operate, while DWSD can focus on the local residents and provide better customer service to the local system. Our organization has an oversight of 6 board members. The 6 board members include 2 members from City of Detroit, 1 member from Oakland County, 1 member from Macomb County, and 1 member from Wayne County. And also we have a member that is assigned by the governor to capture the communities that we serve that fall outside of the tri-counties. The map before you in the blue shaded area is the service area that we serve. We serve about 2.8 million people in Southeast Michigan. That covers approximately 953 square miles of service area. We do that through 19 member partners. So we are a wholesale provider, and those member partners have contracts with local communities, and those local communities total to about 79 communities that we serve. The infrastructure that we have is massive. So as I indicated, the larger infrastructure was transitioned over to the Great Lakes Water Authority. That includes 195 miles of sewer interceptors and pipes that are on the ground, majority of them in City of Detroit boundaries. One of the largest water resource recovery facilities in North America, 9 combined sewer overflow facilities, and 9 combined sewer sanitary pump stations. We thought because of the complexity of our system, we should cover some of these definitions. We tend to use these very loosely just because we've been around them all the time, but I think it's important to kind of cover those items here. And we will be speaking to those regularly as we go through this presentation. Interceptors are large pipes that collect and intercept flows from other sewers. So there was many sewers that were constructed over time, early, over 150 years ago. Interceptors were constructed to capture those sewers where they used to just be discharged right into the Detroit River, to intercept those sewers and collect them and take them to a centralized treatment facility. Furthermore, relief sewers are sewers that are deeper, that provide a relief to the smaller sewers that run shallower underneath grade. So meaning that you might have your typical sanitary sewer lines that run 10, 15 feet underground, while the relief sewers might run 50, 60 feet underground. So they are deep sewers, and they require typically to be lifted. The water requires to be lifted and to be treated or to discharge into the receiving water bodies. In our case, in most cases, is Detroit River or the Rouge River. Combined sewers is a terminology we use where older communities, when constructed, both the stormwater that hits the streets, the catch basins in the street, the roof drains, are combined with the sanitary waste that is used in a home. They all go to the sewer system. While separated sewers, which are the newer communities, have separated piping system where the roads and the drainage all go to a receiving water body nearby, while the sanitary system is the only thing that's conveyed to the treatment facilities. 2 other terminologies that we use is dry weather flow. So dry weather flow for us is complicated. We not only treat the sanitary waste you use in your home or industrial waste that an industry uses and discharge to our system, but also we have infiltration and inflow. And what we refer to that is where old infrastructure, 100-year-old infrastructure, similar to your basement, if you have a crack and there's a high water table across, you have water that seeps inside your basement. We have that same kind of infrastructure underground. Not only us, but so does those 79 communities. So with miles and miles of pipe that we have underground, there is potential for water to get into those pipes. So we refer to that all as dry weather flow. As it relates to wet weather flow, water levels rise mostly in the combined systems because they're connected to the catch basins. They are when storm water actually is introduced into the system. So rain events occur, that's when water actually comes into our system, and we refer to that as wet weather flow. And then finally, tributary area is the area that we collect the wastewater from. So in separated areas is the residential and the industrial users that are on our system. In combined areas is basically the surface area and the residential and the industrial users that are within our area. We thought that we should show you a small video, so we did share with the commissioners a video of how GLWA works. But there is a portion, a clip of that video that I think it's important for the public hearing to kind of just review what I just talked about in the definitions and see it in a pixelated way. You have some?
Is the computer volume? Is this a public video? Like, is it located on the website or somewhere like that as well?
We do have it on our website as well, but this is accessible on our website. But you may have to stop sharing and then share with music, with sound.
While you're pulling that up. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Pipes are more than 17 feet in diameter and extend more than 191 miles. They are so big, you could drive a semi-truck through them. When it rains,
Can you turn your mic? It might be your mic.
stormwater. Stormwater is rainfall that makes its way into waterways and also sometimes into sewer systems. The rainfall flows from the roofs of buildings and pavement, such as driveways, parking lots, and roads. It also flows over the ground when water is not absorbed by soil or plants. A lot of older communities and metropolitan areas have buildings and homes constructed before the 1950s. These older homes may have connections that carry stormwater from the roof or groundwater around the home into a sewer lateral that flows into the sewer network. These are called combined sewers. Modern homes constructed later than the 1950s don't combine stormwater with wastewater. Modern systems are called separated sewer systems. In separated sewer systems, stormwater flows through dedicated pipes directly into local rivers and streams and never mixes with wastewater. Our regional system receives flow from both combined and separated systems, making it a combined system. Each day, the average flow of wastewater through our sewer system is more than 500 million gallons. So on normal days, that's the equivalent of filling up Ford Field approximately 1.5 times. And during large storm events, filling up Ford Field more than 5 times. The member partner communities within the GLWA service area maintain the neighborhood sewers. The only evidence of these neighborhood sewers may be manholes that provide access for workers to inspect, repair, and keep the sewers clean. The storm sewers that serve areas such as I-75 and I-94 are the responsibility of the Michigan Department of Transportation. The drainage from these areas flows to either natural waterways or into the neighborhood sewers, eventually making their way to the GLWA regional sewer system.
So now getting into the. So now to actually get into the our system. So looking at this slide, the tributary area we separated at the request of the commission. What is our separated systems and what is our combined? So the blue shading that's shown here is about 76% of our tributary area, which equates to, which is separated. And about 24% of the area, which is identified in the red, is combined. What should be noted is that all the significant amount of water that we receive in our system, approximately 80% of the wet weather that we handle in our entire system is contributed by the 24% of the area that we service. So the rainwater from the combined systems is significant just because of the potential opportunities for it to get into the system. Now to look underneath, what's happening underneath the ground. We collect flow through 3 major interceptors to serve those 2.8 million people that we had identified. The interceptors, as I indicated in the definition, are what collected the flows from the lateral sewers. What you see in the graphic, the green lines are not roads and streets, although they run very commonly in parallel within the right-of-way. Those are sewers that are managed by DWSD, specifically in the yellow shaded area, as part of the Detroit system. Those have interconnections to the regional system, which are shown in the 3 red lines. The 3 red lines are the 3 major interceptors that collect flow and bring it down to the centralized facility. The far right is the Detroit River Interceptor, the Northeast Interceptor, and then the Northwest Interceptor. Additionally, on this graphic shows specific locations where communities that are outside of city of Detroit only have 1 or 2 connection points where they enter flows into our system. Majority of city of Detroit have multiple connections just because of the way that the infrastructure was built, but outside communities are only introducing flow at specific points within our interceptors. So now to work into the east side specifically. One of the questions that was brought up at our last meeting was how much infrastructure is out there outside of the Great Lakes Authority or DWSD? Are we the only ones that's building infrastructure? And this graphic is intended to show you 2 things. One, as you can see on the legend, the yellow cylinders identify all the infrastructure that other member partners operate and maintain. So they have pump stations as well. They have retention basins as well as many, many miles of sewer pipe that they're responsible for. We have to construct our infrastructure and maintain our infrastructure to be able to handle the flow that comes from those facilities. Now, I only focused on the east side, but I can assure you that there is similar infrastructure north of us in Oakland County. There is similar infrastructure west of us in Dearborn and Western Wayne. In addition to this map, what you see in here is the dry weather flow contribution. There's 3 major pump stations that Great Lakes Water Authority operates within the east side. Blue Hill Pump Station, Connor Creek Pump Station, and the Frood Pump Station. All these pump stations have a sanitary component and have a wet weather component, which is what we refer to as storm component. The Blue Hill Pump Station, the reason that you don't see a shading color that relates to the Blue Hill Pump Station is because what Blue Hill does, it lifts flow from a low point area and discharges it to the Connor Creek Pump Station, and then Connor Creek pumps it down to the Water Resource Recovery Facility. That's why you see 2 color representation of dry weather flow. The brown is a representation of what goes to the Connor Creek Sanitary Pump Station, while the purple, and this is where we're getting to the specifics of the purpose of this project, the purple is what is contributing dry weather flow as it relates to residential usage or industrial usage to the Frood Pump Station. All that flow is coming in 24/7 rain, dry, that volume of water is coming down the pipe. Now, as we look at it in wet weather condition, I want to emphasize on this. So very similar map. The graphic change is, I want to emphasize on the purple. The purple is a representation of how Frood comes to work, the Frood storm pump station comes to work. And you can see the boundaries that it captures. And there's adjacent communities that contribute wet weather flow to the Frood pump station. There is significant amount of communities in Detroit, space in Detroit, and there's a significant amount of communities in Southeast Macomb and Grosse Points that utilize the Frood pump station storm to manage all the wet weather flow that comes into its system. The two other color shadings that you see, one is the brown color, which is handled by the Connor Creek storm. And then the final one is the turquoise color, which is through the gravity system goes down to our Connor Creek CSO. Most importantly here is when we refer to these two pump stations, you have heard me say the bathtub effect, the low point. We have each one of these storm pump stations can handle 2 billion gallons of water. 2 billion gallons of water, to give you some perspective, is equivalent to filling an Olympic-sized pool up in 22 seconds. So the amount of water we move out of the east side. Each one of these pumps, Connor and Frood together, can handle 4 billion gallons of water, working together, removing all the water that comes in from the east side. So now let's get closer to where this pump station is being constructed. This graphic really shows all the interceptors in the sewers that are within this specific area that was constructed over 100 years ago. I know that we have had conversations of why GLWA picked this location. Unfortunately, GLWA doesn't pick the locations of our projects. The infrastructure that was built 100 years ago is what selects where we have to do to be able to build the infrastructure to be able to accommodate it. The pump station was built in the 50s. The sewers were there well before that. And we are constructing a pump station, an isolation chamber, so that we can do maintenance on an infrastructure that has been there for close to 100 years that has not been maintained to the standard that we believe it needs to be maintained. Just as a couple more things to cover on this, the Connor Creek pump station that we showed you runs along the Jefferson. You can see that is kind of identified in the upper left of this graphic. And then the Connor Creek CSO is in the lower left of this graphic. That is the actual treatment facility that receives water from both of those pump stations. I also want to emphasize that the Connor Creek Sanitary that I was referring to is the rectangular building that many of you may have driven by many times, that is between Jefferson and the circular building that is located on Jefferson. So I also thought, as part of our discussion at our last meeting, there was a lot of discussion between floodplain and flooding. And I thought that this is a good opportunity for us to also have that conversation. To clarify that, the graphic that you see here is the firm map. These are flood insurance rate maps that are developed by Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which it's a federal agency. GLWA has no connections with this federal agency. Other than we utilize the maps to be able to do our construction projects or activities. In 2021, October of 2021, the firm maps that I will refer to were updated for this area. This project had initiated back in 2014. Wayne County works with FEMA directly to be able to do FEMA map updates. FEMA maps are a representation of areas that are prone to flooding or potential for flooding. And this is what's used to establish insurance maps and rating for that. What is utilized to inform this map is river levels So shoreline flooding, coastal flooding, and elevation. So the terrain the area that is surveyed is what establishes what a floodplain is. And this is this graphic shows you that, I think, in a very good way, because if you look at the Jefferson-Chalmers area, which is shown on the left side in the blue, is referred to as special flood hazard area. This is a floodplain, basically. While the Grosse Points Park is identified as an area with reduced flood risk due to levees. So both of these facilities, both of these communities have the same sewer infrastructure. They are both serviced by GLWA, as you saw in the earlier map. Both of these communities experienced the same flooding in 2021, same precipitation, the same hardship that happened across the board when it came to the amount of water that system experienced. However, the floodplain map, if you notice on this, is showing two different representations because it is only dependent on the levee which is protecting it from the Great Lakes, which is the Detroit River entering the system, and has nothing to do with the sewer system or the flooding that happens. FEMA, as I indicated, takes into account coastal flooding. They do not account for any storm water, rainwater event, what we refer to as pluvial flooding, which would be rain type of introduction. In addition to that, as I indicated, and I contacted the state representative, which we can share their contact with the commission, as it related to if they included the water levels that we experienced in 2019 or 2021. If you recall, the river levels were significantly high. And their response was no, they did not even account for that because they simply look at modeling results and geographical topographical mapping of the area to determine if it's in floodplain or not and if there's protection from levees. So I think that's an important thing to note. So as we get into alternatives, and we heard the alternative that was proposed, and I go back to what dry weather is. As I indicated, there's two sources. One is infiltration inflow, and one is the usage of used water that comes into our system. The first alternative we looked at, as you can see, which would have been the most preferred alternative for even GLWA, would be to construct isolation chambers as close as possible to the Frood pump station. I will tell you that we are actually doing this alternative at the Connor Creek storm pump station, which is the most preferable because it is the less amount of pipe that's between the pump station and the isolation, minimizing the potential of water getting into the system, which allows us to safely access the pump station and do the maintenance that's necessary. But unfortunately, as I indicated in the graphics of dry weather, there is the purple area that has flow that's coming in 24/7 to this location. In addition to that, the farther we go back, there's more potential for groundwater infiltration into the pipe. Now, we do sewer inspections, we go out, we do injections, and just like you would do it in your basement where you would get somebody to come out to crack inject. But when you have a 100-year-old basement, 150-year-old basement, there's a lot more cracks, there's joint separations, so there is water that infiltrates to these sewers. So no matter what we do in our efforts, there's still water that's introduced into the system that puts our facilities at risk, so therefore we can't access the facilities. This alternative was not found feasible because we would need a pump station somehow to take the water out. Otherwise, we will be backing up homes because there's no way for that water that's coming in 24/7 to be able to leave the system. Alternative 2 was to install a pump station adjacent to that isolation chamber. Now, keep in mind, one other thing that I didn't mention on the alternative 1, there was a concern about engineering construction. As you can see, we're showing those lines as curves coming into that pump station. Unfortunately, and impressively, in 1950s, they truly did construct those pipes with those massive curves. And our structural engineers during the time, our designers, were not comfortable also installing isolation chambers right on a curve. There was risk associated with that, and that was also one of the other drivers that eliminated that alternative. We identified a pump station being construction adjacent to our pump station, minimizing the footprint, reducing the encroachment into the community. But unfortunately, if we would have constructed this facility there, we would have had to likely close Fruit Street in its entirety. Because of the community just north of that, those were properties that are being utilized, and we would not be able to effectively reroute fruit around the pump station if we were to have constructed it that close. Ultimately, this is the alternative that was selected. However, the team worked with Land Bank to find properties that are available, ideally within the reach between the areas that are shown where the two interceptors are running in parallel, so we can construct one pump station. And then finally, the last alternative that we looked at was installing new interceptors, relief sewers. These will be massive sewers that would have to be constructed 60, 80 feet underground to a new mega pump station is what we will have to refer to, as I explained how big these pump stations are, and additional interceptors that would be able to do that. This project, this cost of this was over $1 billion, and it was not feasible. It was recognizing that the funding that comes to the sewer system is 40% City of Detroit. And GLWA is very cognizant, and our board members remind us regularly of how important it is for us to stay affordable as we do our projects, as we do our services. And so if we were to construct something that expensive, it would be burdened 40% by by all City of Detroit residents. So ultimately, the most feasible location was found to be the project between Navajo and Connor. And the properties that were acquired at the time were acquired between 2019 and 2022. Those properties were either vacant or abandoned buildings. So GLWA did try to make the minimum impact as possible in acquiring properties that were not being occupied, so we do not have to relocate anyone. These slides you're familiar with, but I'm going to quickly go through them as a reminder. To give you a perspective, I already talked about the size of the pump stations. But when it comes to the storm pump station versus the isolation pump station that we are constructing, just upstream of the storm pump station, if you look at the differences between the two, the existing pump station is a 2 billion gallon pump station, while we're constructing a 30 million gallons per day pump station. Although here it looks relatively small, I will tell you as a person that has ran other communities, 30 MGD pump station is still a pretty large pump stations that I will tell you some communities that would be their largest pump stations that they have in their system. And for us, it's unfortunately because of the size of our system, it is just simply an isolation rerouting pump station. And you can kind of get some perspectives. We wanted to add where how long it takes to fill a swimming pool. You can see it's the differences between 25 seconds versus 22 minutes. I also wanted to address the odor concerns. So we have, as I indicated, 4 pump stations in this area, but I wanted to highlight the 2 that are specifically to this location. One is the Connor Creek Sanitary Pump Station that I referred to and I showed you, which was a pretty large brown area that was tributary to it. That pump station is close to 5 times the size of the pump station that we're constructing. In addition to that, it is significantly shallower than the pump station that we're constructing. We have reached out to City of Detroit, we have looked at the records, and we have not had any odor complaints at any of these facilities. Now, I will also emphasize that at a recent community meeting that we had, as I was walking out, a resident approached me and talked to me about the odor that they were experiencing at that moment in time in the parking lot of East Lake Baptist Church, which is adjacent to the pump station. And the odor that was emitted from that was more of an industrial smell. There's a unique odor to wastewater. It is more sulfur-like, and that odor that we were experiencing at that time was definitely coming from north of Jefferson. It was not coming from our facility. Another indicator to know is that most vegetation doesn't really grow well around high sulfur areas. So we would see that with pine trees, but there are trees right adjacent to the pump station that are blooming, and there's nothing wrong with them. So that indicates that there is not much off-gassing that's happening from that station. So I did want to emphasize that this pump station, as it relates to the depth and the scale and the size. This graphic really shows the profile of the pump station where we intersected to two interceptors. Really, we're going to be doing this so that we can clean, inspect, maintain, rehab the storm pump station, which is the ultimate pump station that we have to utilize to protect the low-lying communities. This is a graphic that I don't need to go through, but it kind of represents the sewers that are underneath and why we have to reroute the fruit and why we have to construct the pump station where it is. This again is a highlight of the parcels that GLWA acquired during this process to be able to construct the pump station. This graphic is new. We thought that this will help kind of give the relationship between these two pump stations. Unfortunately, we're engineers and naming is not the best terminology for us. It's not our trait, but it's simply an isolation chamber with a pump station. We call it sanitary because that's what our industry calls a pump station that takes flow during dry weather, and it has sanitary characteristic potentials in that water. But during regular conditions currently, without that pump station, the flow continues to come to the storm pump station. It doesn't allow us to access that pump station. We have to have a methodology to isolate that pump station and then divert the flow that is coming to that station to another pump station so that we can do work at the storm pump station. And this is a graphic representation of what that would look like. And then finally, I want to talk about our commitments. We experienced as Great Lakes Water Authority constructing a new pump station, as I indicated before. This is not something we do regularly. This is not something we like to do because it does cost us a lot of money, and we like to try to keep the rates down as much as we can. And this is burdened by the ratepayers of the system. But unfortunately, we did not do as much of the engagement as we should have, and we have committed to that. And during the safety planning we recognized the lack of engagement that took place. Council members assisted us, and we had worked with them to develop community engagement plan, develop methods to be able to better engage with the community as we progress on the project. We committed to quarterly community meetings that was identified, and we continue to do that, and we will plan on doing that. I believe we have 3 more remaining in this calendar year. We plan to do the same in 2026 and 2027 until the completion of the project. We are utilizing a mailer system, door hangers, to be able to communicate with the local residents on any issues that are coming up, keeping them informed as the project progresses of any activities that are happening. And then finally, we have developed a website with a hotline so that residents can reach out and voice any concerns, and our team and Paul Ransom, our project manager, responds immediately. There was a request from Councilwoman Letitia Johnson to do a traffic study. We appreciated that direction. The traffic study was done, and we have now reduced the neighborhood traffic. So the rerouting is not going to be done as had originally planned, and it is now going to be rerouted to Jefferson. And Paul can speak to that more if there's any questions on that. As it relates to meeting opportunities, we did have our December meeting. We did not have the attendance that I would have hoped we have. So we are looking to continue to find different opportunities to engage the local community, utilizing the District 4 neighborhood meetings, the monthly meetings, the advocacy group council meetings, or whatever else that's necessary for us to make sure that the local community understands what we are doing as part of this project. The mailer, as you had seen, and then finally, the aesthetics of the facility. Oh, yep. The aesthetic of the facility is one area that GLWA, as I indicated as engineers, we are open to looking at different opportunities. Originally, when we designed the project, this was put forth before the Department of Planning, and the proposed alternative that's shown here in the graphic on the upper right was the alternative that we took forth as it was directed to us. And I will tell you that GLWA, although we are trying to be as cost conscious as possible, committed to the facade that's necessary, recognizing that we're in the neighborhood and we have to do what we have to do to be able to blend this facility in. But this is the direction that we had received. An alternative facade was proposed based on color schemes that are in the neighborhood, but still we received some comments from the community that we are not happy with either of those. GLWA has committed, just as we committed to the public engagement, we have committed to work through with the local community to find a facade that would meet the local neighborhood's desire while not losing the functionality of the station. We have to maintain the functionality of the station, otherwise it would not be an effective facility for us to be able to operate, to successfully do the service that we need to do for the system. And at this point, I will turn it back. That concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that very detailed presentation, and thanks for bringing back a lot of that information that I recall commissioners asking. And I know there was probably some difficulty in defining that information, so thank you for doing that. I do have a couple questions. Mr. Frassini, if you could just assist. As it relates to the vacation and the areas that are being rezoned, can you bring that information back and just graphically show that? Because I'm just following, narratively we have all the addresses and parcels, but I'm just curious to what that vacation looks like boundary related to the areas that we're actually rezoning.
So zoning, one thing to know is the zoning does not apply to public rights-of-way, as commissioners may know. So the image at the top right is a good depiction of, and this was a map that was submitted during the reroute and vacation process that DPW requires, I believe. So we're not clear still on when the existing right-of-way would be officially vacated and the new right-of-way dedicated. It doesn't appear that that's occurred yet, so that's something we can look into for commission. But all of these lots along the south boundary of the current right-of-way, and then portions of the lots to the north, where they would hit the south line of the new right-of-way. So that 231, 130, 230, 232 to 236, and then 298 to this hatch here, which would be a new alley. So it would be that area, and then if the street is, if the right-of-way in the black is vacated at the time that the rezoning hits, then that would be included as well. But either way, it would intended to include the entire development site.
Okay.
Eventually, at some point, should the road physically be rerouted and dedicated, that's the goal. So.
Okay. And are you making new right-of-way to the north of the new configuration?
Correct. That would be a new dedicated public right-of-way hatched in that hatched bend to the north.
In that hatch bend, okay. Are any residents getting additional land or not?
I don't believe so. I don't know if the applicants can speak to it, but that right-of-way vacation process is managed by DPW, and we can reach out to them for that question, but I don't believe so.
Okay. That answers all my questions. Last question, and this is just regarding this item. And I heard that there's no staff recommendation at this time, so I'm assuming that means it's going to come back later. Is there an expectation to continue the public hearing?
That's always up to the commission. Obviously, we typically don't provide recommendations until the public hearing's closed, just to make sure we have all the feedback. So if the public hearing is closed, we would likely bring a recommendation at the following meeting, whether that's closed tonight or remains open for a future meeting.
Okay, sounds good. I have no further questions, fellow commissioners. Commissioner Lewis, going down the line, Commissioner Udabi, in that order. Thank you.
I have a very brief question. I understood you to say that the Freud sanitary pump station would allow you to work on the Freud storm pump station. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So when you start working on the storm, on the Freud storm, will it still be in operation, or it will no longer be in operation as you work on it?
And it will always stay in operation. So the way we do work in water and wastewater is we put contingency plans in place so that we are, in the event that there's a pop-up storm or there's a storm that's coming in, that we will be able to exit the sewer and be able to restore the station and be able to provide the service that station is supposed to provide.
Otherwise, though, in the absence of a storm or something like that, the station would not be operating. The sanitary pump station would be where the operations would be. I'm trying to understand.
During rain events, the sanitary storm pump station will not bring enough capacity that's necessary to be able to handle. As I indicated, the Fruit storm handles 2 billion gallons. The sanitary storm handles 30 million gallons.
Okay, so
Yep.
right there. So while you're working on it, the storm station, pump station, will handle dry weather or only wet weather?
It would, while we're working on it, it will not be doing anything. It will be out of service at the time we're working on it.
That was my question.
Okay.
While you're
All
working
right. Sorry
on it,
about that. Yep. While we're working on it, it's out of service. That is
we,
correct.
we went miles around.
Sorry about that.
Okay, sometimes it's just good to say yes or no. Okay, so while you're working on it, that sanitary pump station is going to be doing some percentage of the work that the storm station would normally do?
That is correct.
Okay, so once you complete the work, what happens with the sanitary pump station?
So we haven't operationally worked through all the details, but we will likely keep the sanitary operations functioning. So the way we have constructed it is that we will remove the isolation chambers. So the isolation that will prevent water from going down into the storm station. But the way that we have configured the invert of the pump station will work 24/7 going forward. And it will handle all the sanitary flow, all the dry weather flow that comes to it.
Okay. That sanitary pump station, after you complete the work on the storm pump station, is not really necessary. Yes or no?
It is necessary.
Okay. Okay, and then my only other question is, you showed the cities in the Northeast. And those cities are also have the storm and the sanitary combined. And will this sanitary pump station being placed here, and then after the work is completed, being maintained in that space, does it in any way impact GLEWA's ability to minimize events in those eastern areas? Yes or no?
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Well, this sanitary, we looked and we saw that all of these interceptors, I believe you called them, coming from the eastern suburbs, coming down into Detroit to these pump stations. My question to you is, will the construction, if it were approved, of the sanitary pump station, the Freud sanitary pump station, assist with water events in those areas?
No, it will not.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Udabi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming back and giving a presentation. I appreciate you being extremely thorough to answer the questions. Can you help me to understand once more if something else you all considered was like an above-ground bypass, if that was a possibility, instead of having this new station, or is it too much flow for that to be a possibility?
So if I understand correctly, an above-ground bypass to us would be temporary pieces of equipment that we would install. There will be generators that will have to be installed for those pumps because there's not enough power that they would require. There will be pipes that will be running on surface that will likely close off roads because those pipes will be large enough that you can't, like in some areas, you know how they do bypass and you can drive over or something. These pipes will be too large to do that. So we would do a temporary system. So it would be a temporary mobilization. It would be very, not only costly, but very disruptive to the community. It would be loud, and those pumps will have to run 24/7. So you will have generators running 24/7 for, it could be a month or two. And that is the purpose of this. So that will be the only option because we have to lift, because the interceptors are 60 feet below ground, we have to lift the flow out and then over to another location.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for walking me through that a little bit. And then I think I have one question for staff, being curious about changing this to R5 and maybe talking through how it would or would not be spot zoning. I'm curious about it because it is just like a very specific chunk of that street.
So through the chair, the spot zoning question is one of the rezoning criteria, and we hope to bring our staff findings and criteria with the next report, potentially for the next meeting. So we'll have a write-up on that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Udabi. Anyone else? All right. Yes, Commissioner, it's a new year. Daniels, thank you.
You got me already. I only been in. Yeah, it was a real thorough presentation. I guess my question is, what's the total cost of this project?
So this project is $138 million. It is SRF funded, meaning that it is low interest loans from the state that we have to reimburse. But because of the value of this project, the state recognized the benefits of it, and we were able to successfully secure about 20 million of it. So when I go back to the 40%, the distribution between City of Detroit and the other communities, that is the low interest loan, and we benefit of the $20 million of grant funding that was contributed to this project.
And how many employees will be at this facility once it's up and running?
So this project, we have over 1,100 employees at Great Lakes Water Authority. 400 of them are in the wastewater system. And I will tell you that the station itself is going to be designed to be unmanned. Most of our sanitary stations are unmanned. Connor Creek Sanitary Pump Station is an unmanned facility. But we do have a group of 20 team members that are responsible for just doing rounds. So throughout a 24/7 period, every 2-3 hours, there's somebody that's driving by, going in, inspecting the pumps, ensuring that everything is operational. And in addition to that, we have a centralized control command center where we monitor 24/7, and those are facilities that are staffed as well, 24/7. So we have staff that are behind workstations that are monitoring the pump stations, and in addition to that, we have team members that will be making rounds to inspect and ensure that physically put eyes on the equipment to ensure that it is operating.
Okay. And I guess my final question is the smell issue that the residents are concerned about. We have another issue with odor in the air, not too far from there, this the Landis plant. So I know they're sick and tired of being sick and tired of smelling all this different thing, these odors. So how's that going to be addressed?
So as I indicated, that our facilities don't have odors on these. And that is one of the major reasons why we're building as large of a facility as we are, because we want to enclose everything that we are going to be doing within the sewer system, within the building. And we put the air handling units on the roof. The pumps that are going to be lifting the sewer are 75 feet deep in the ground. The piping is all enclosed piping. There is no exposed sewer that's going to be open to atmosphere. To expand on that, if we were to do a temporary system, as it was kind of questioned earlier, that will likely have potential for odor emissions in that situation, because there, when you have temporary pumps that are being installed in interceptors, you're not building a tight infrastructure, right? It's temporary that's going in. So there is more potential for emission of odors that could come from that. Where, like I indicated, the Connor Creek pump station is operating today. I encourage you to drive by it. There is no odors, there's no noise that comes from that pump station, and it is 5 times the size of the pump station that we're constructing. Our facilities, we take pride into odor control management, and we have invested infrastructure when necessary to do odor control. So some of our combined sewer overflow facilities does have actual odor control features that we have installed to be able to prevent that. And here we do not anticipate any odor.
Okay. So I'm trying to remember, I was on the water board for about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm trying to remember, I know we had a wastewater plant down in southwest Detroit.
Yep.
So this collection is going to go there, or is it going to be terminated at that location?
No, the collection still continues to go there. There will be no change in the way that in the methodology that we treat wastewater, which is all done at the 9300 West Jefferson.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Daniels. And Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And once again, thank you to the petitioners for the very thorough presentation. And there's a lot to wrap our brains on here. It's a lot of information. So I want to go back to some very simple things, because I want to make certain that I have a solid understanding of the purpose here and why this community in particular is being asked. It's a very complicated process. Obviously, there is some opposition within the community. And so they're being asked to take on a lot, right? And so I just want to go back to, again, the purpose of this, because what I've heard and what you've explained, this is going to support and add value to the overall efficiency of the larger system, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't have sort of any specific direct benefits to the community that's going into. All of the benefits are for the broader system. Is that correct?
The only correction I would make is that, as I indicated on the wet weather flow diagram, the purple area, which is the Jefferson Chalmers area, where this project will be located, is included in that. So the storm pump station that we are trying to do better maintenance on services that community directly.
Can you pull that back up on the screen so we can take a look at that?
So it is slide 10. So as you can see, the purple area just left of Grosse Pointe Park, that pink area is tributary to the Frood storm pump station. So all the storm water that when it rains goes to the Frood pump station. And the Frood pump station, as you saw in the graphics, it's the deepest pump station. It's my workhorse, and I put it online, the first pump station I put online. And because of the low-lying communities, the sooner I can get that water out of the system, the better off the system is going to be. So it is a direct benefit to that community. But as you indicated as well, to the bigger system, as you can see, there's a lot of purple on this map.
There's a lot of purple, right? And so, and you can leave this slide up. So, in looking at page 5 of your presentation, you said, and I'm just going to go through these because I really want to. We've got a lot of information, and I really want to go to some very specific points around those direct benefits. So, the purpose of this is it says improve the reliability of the Frood storm pumping station. Cleaning, inspection, maintenance, and rehabilitation, right? And so the question I say is, improving the reliability, has this pumping station been unreliable in any way? Like help us understand exactly. And you did present a few things around this would improve maintenance, but has this pumping station underperformed in any significant way, or is this about merely sort of adding enhancements again to the overall system? Like, help us understand.
It's a good question. So GLWA was stood up because of deferred maintenance on the larger infrastructure that's necessary, on the infrastructure that was necessary. So when we're looking at things, we're looking at what we can do to do better. So our records from 1955 that's being constructed, there's only maybe 2 times that inspection has been done inside this wet well because access cannot be granted, right? Because there's live sewer that's continuously coming down. We don't know the condition. We haven't put our eyes on it. So it's concrete. It's sewer gas, as I indicated. It's sulfur. Sulfur breaks down concrete. So we need to get inside these sewers. We need to get inside our pipes. We need to get inside our wet wells. So is it reliable? Yes, the station has been reliable, has been providing the service that it needs to. But we have to look at things in 50 years. We look at things in long-term planning, and we have to set eyes on this pump station and remove debris that may have accumulated in there. There are actual rings that are underneath the pump that is only accessed from the wet well, but those rings have not been done for a significantly long time. That needs to be done. The pump still functions without it, but it wears out sooner. So there's another expense associated with that. So we're trying to improve by doing more preventative work to avoid potential catastrophic failures.
And that's hypothetically, possibly somewhere in the future, but right now, okay, so it operates. So cleaning, maintenance, inspection.
Commissioner Harrison, can I just ask a follow-up question to that as it relates to repairs? I think I heard you say, can you, the mic echo, Commissioner Harrison? The mic echo.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I think I heard you say, okay. I think I heard you say maybe twice it has been repaired. There has been repairs.
It has been accessed.
It has been accessed. Can you give an indication on, in the future, if this is not implemented, how frequently you may have to access it in the future and what the process to do that would be? Like, do you have to tear up, 2-3 blocks of street to do that? What is that process to do repairs?
So the repairs, we do repairs all the time in the sewer without impacting the surface, right? So after we get access, you would not know we're doing sewer work regularly, other than seeing maybe a few trucks along the side of the road. There's a rare occasion that we have to actually disturb the surface because we have such large infrastructure. People can stand in them, we can drive in them, we can move infrastructure into that area to be able to do the repairs that are necessary. Our asset management typically is driven based on the need and based on frequency. As I indicated, we haven't been inside the sewer. GLWA and many of our team members have not seen inside this condition of this concrete, right? So after what we tend to do typically as a utility, we do this in our sewer system, is we'll go inside of a sewer and we will inspect it, we will repair it. We would identify a time frame, and 2 years later, we'll go back into that same sewer and inspect it and see how much accumulation has grown, how much deterioration we have experienced. We have calculations that based on that, we make a determination of the frequency that we need to do the work of that to ensure that the health of this facility, we don't lose that health and we have that reliability. So unfortunately, the questions you're asking is wonderful questions. I just don't have the answers yet till we get inside these sewers and actually be able to see the conditions and see the deterioration rate. And then based on that, we maintain our systems to ensure that it is operating.
Is there a specific reason why you haven't been able to get into? I think you might have said it, but
It is simply because most of it has to do because it will be very disruptive for us to install temporary bypassing systems. To some extent, partially not feasible, especially with new MIOSHA and safety requirements. It becomes very difficult to find even contractors that will be willing to go inside these.
Okay, and so just so I'm understanding, in order to do regular maintenance work on that facility, it's unfeasible because of all the prerequisites to do that work.
That is correct.
That's okay. And by constructing the system, it kind of fixes your regular maintenance issue and your ongoing maintenance issue that you currently can't do.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, all right. Continue, Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to go back to where we left off. But as of right now, these would be ideal scenarios to be able to make these improvements to clean, inspect, maintenance, and rehabilitation with the upgrades. But as of right now, reliability of the station has operated efficiently. In your word, that's correct?
That is a correct statement. I do want to caveat it with one note. I will tell you that I have looked at 10 years of data, and the regional system has functioned 99.9% of the time. That 0.1% of the time that it failed, it caused significant amount of hardship. Just unimaginable, right? Our system is protecting Southeast Michigan when it comes to rain, when it comes to water. So unfortunately, I would say yes, it's it could fail, right? But what I have come to learn, and also just meeting with the communities going through the 2021 rain event, you can perform 99.9% of the time, and that 0.1% of the time can cause so much hardship that we have to do everything that we can to be able to make sure that point. Now, again, at the end of the day, I'm not guaranteeing that 0.1% of the time might not happen, right? Because it's mechanical equipment. You turn on your car, it's cold, something breaks, something happens. There's still a likely chance of that. But what we do as utility managers is we minimize those risk as much as possible. And this is a risk that we're identifying, and we're trying to find an opportunity to minimize that risk.
Right. And I appreciate you sharing that. But at the same time, it's apparent to me that even with these improvements, and we're talking about a whole system and the dynamics of an entire system, you can make the improvements here and still that 1% risk does not go away, correct? I mean,
0.1%.
0.1% risk does not go away. So therefore, it's a good point, but also in this case of what we're talking about, where the community is being asked to take on, sort of a significant sort of part of the system, we're really talking about the investment that's being asked to sort of take place in this community. So I appreciate your point. I just want to have clarity about what the community is being asked to do and the direct benefit it's going to receive for taking this on for this entire system. So the other point that I just wanted to go to is maximizing GLEWA's ability to keep sewer water levels low during rain events. Again, this specific pumping station no direct benefit to the community, but we're talking about the larger system again, right?
Larger pump stations.
Larger pump stations, and helps prevent basement backups. Again, larger system, not direct benefits to the community, correct?
That is, well, they are included in
They're
that
included in it,
community,
but exactly.
not only just that community.
So I just want to say I really appreciate the work that you do. You know, this is important work for our region. It's important work for everyone in terms of what you have laid out here today. I think that, you know, in thinking about the considerations of residents, is that they're being asked to do something specifically within their geography that's going to service the entire system without sort of, I think there needs sort of speaking to sort of the importance of the contribution that they're being asked to do. And I just wanted to sort of get those things sort of uplifted. And I appreciate you responding to my questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll make this very quick. It seems unfortunate that when you say the customers, would this be inclusive of all of the customers that you were just discussing with my colleague here within that area? Or is the Detroit customer paying for this?
All the customers are paying.
All the customers who are benefiting from the area?
No, the entire GLWA 2.8 million people that we are servicing pays
Okay.
for this project.
That was one question. And very quickly, I just wanted to ask, are you, for the future, is GLEWA installing, I don't know what to call it, machines or buildings that would enable them to access these storm pump stations without having to build a whole new sanitary? Or because it seems that what you're saying is that I've got to build this to find out if I have a problem. So the community, the customers have to spend what I think you said $138 million to give GLEWA the opportunity to determine if there is a problem. It is possible you'll go in there and say, hey, look, this is okay. But now you've got a method by which to make it simple, cut the water off so that you can get in there. Are you making any types of arrangements so that you don't have to spend $138 million in the future to determine if you have a problem?
So as it relates to our new infrastructure that was built, there's isolation that are integrated inside those stations, right? Like that is required by our design standards. So yes, to answer your question. But I do want to emphasize that this is not simply just to go see if we have a problem. This is also to go remove debris. This is also to go and do maintenance on the pumps from underneath. So there are work that we will do and we will regularly do accessing this storm pump station. But as it relates to the reliability, one of the big things for me is the concrete integrity of it as well.
I mean, you'd have to agree $138 million is a very large sum to determine, to collect trash. So I'm just hopeful that GLEWA is making plans for the future to ensure that customers don't have to put these amounts of money out when we don't know if we're paying to resolve a problem.
I definitely understand that. My budget is a 5-year budget is $1 billion that I use to invest into wastewater infrastructure. So yes, absolutely, I understand.
Every penny counts.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. All right, we'll go to Commissioner Bennett and then Commissioner Daniels.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think one point that, and this comes from my experience in my professional career, that just because there's not an issue right now doesn't mean in 2 days, 2 years, and with the GLEWA inheriting this system, and this is a 70-year-old pump station, something's going to happen. And when it does, it's catastrophic, and the likelihood will only increase. That 0.1% will just increase over time. So I understand that this is going to be a burden on the community, you know, if this project was to go forth, but also deferred maintenance, it has a price at some point and it could be worse. So I just want to voice that. Having seen that in my professional life, what can happen when you do not maintain an asset and get eyes on it when you have the ability to. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it relates to these runoff charges that we pay monthly, when it rains, or when it snows, every resident in Detroit has to pay a fee for that. Are other communities being charged the same fee that we are for that runoff, for that water?
Yeah, so GLWA as a regional wholesaler, we just charge for the sewer service that we provide. Each local community manages their own service charges. So they take our whole service costs and then apply their charges. Those are City of Detroit is actually implementing that, and I can't speak to the actual charges that other communities have.
So you don't have anything to do with that, you said? No. Okay, now about doing the inspections, you said that there are no companies that are willing to do that, go in the ground 50 and 60 feet to look at those?
While there's live sewers that are active to it, and the potential for not being able to actually get into the work that's necessary. That is correct.
Okay. I remember when I was on the board, there was talk of us that wanted to see it, members, to go and get in this crane and go down by forever and then look around. I'm not going down that. That's a lot. I mean, it's too risky.
Yeah.
It's too risky.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to just share an additional thought related to some of the questions that I asked and what I'd like to see since this is an item that we're going to continue that'll come back. What I'd like to see, you know, and again, sort of appreciating and recognizing the importance of some of the maintenance and what you're looking to do in terms of improving the entire system, but also recognizing some of the community concerns that are coming in. I like more discussion because I think that in this case, the community is being asked to sort of take on a considerable change in relation to its community characteristics for the benefit of the entire system, which they are a part of, but at the same time, I think that they are sort of experiencing a significant part of that. They're taking on a significant part of it. And so while there's time, I'd like to see more discussion around some of the community concerns and seeing if you know, how more of that can be considered and recognize the responsibility that this community is being asked to take on in this neighborhood. And so while there's opportunity, I think that would be important for me to hear more about. So I'll stop there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. And I have just a few questions to close off before we go into the public hearing. I heard you mention the facade, odor, location, but I have in my notes noise came up, and I heard you mention noise at the Fox Creek station or pump. Can you just speak to noise in this location?
Yeah, thank you for that. The noise decibels are not going to be, for operation of the facility, are not going to be noticeable. They are, like, as I indicated, the Connor Creek pump station is currently operating. It is 5 times the size, and there's no noise that comes off of that building, which is just off of Jefferson. The pumps for this, the only moving mechanical parts are 75 feet deep in the ground, so it's not going to really be generating any noise. The only noise that the community might hear is the HVAC equipment that's on the roof. And the reason and that also contributed to the height of the roof, but we moved the units to the top of the roof to minimize the amount of noise that's going to be introduced by pedestrians walking by that building. So
are those your kind of standard commercial air units, or are these?
They are standard commercial industrial units.
Okay, and 75 feet below grade is like 7 stories ish, something like that.
Yeah, I would say so. That
Maybe.
makes sense.
Okay. All right. My next question is, you mentioned isolation, in your system. So modern systems typically are built with isolation. That's okay. But this is an older system, so it was not built with isolation, which is in part why the issue for risk management is the concern.
That's right.
Okay. Related to the facade, in your first and second concept, they have windows. And you mentioned this is isolated, so smells and things don't escape. Are these operational windows, or are these more for visual aesthetics?
These are visual aesthetics, and I will say that the window limitations we have, as long as it's a secure building, right? We have no limitations on the amount of windows. We actually like windows because that will bring in more fresh light into the facility. But I know that originally there was some concern, so that's why the windows were limited, but it was not a GLWA need. We can increase the windows, we can change the building facade however necessary to be able to accommodate.
Okay. And two more questions. Detroit recently experienced a population growth, and other communities may as well. Does population growth impact, or is that a deciding factor in anywhere in this project or the system as a whole?
It really does not. So on the water side, we're actually seeing a decline in water usage, and mostly due to tightening up the system, more water conservation. But on the sewer side, we're similarly seeing less water come in. So unfortunately during dry weather we're very low flow, and during wet weather we're really high flow. Okay. So we don't have any concerns with population.
Is that a result of just more modern systems being used, homes and across the whole infrastructure system? Or?
On the drinking water side, yes. On the wastewater side, we believe has a lot to do with the maintenance and the work that we have been doing and our member partner communities have been doing on tightening the systems, as I indicated, going in, crack injections and finding ways to seal their systems so that less water comes in, allowing more room for when a storm water comes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Fazzini, I have a question for you. If this is to proceed as a R5, then the use becomes a conditional land use, which means BC has they have a handle on that process. Does that require a public hearing?
Yes, it does. It's another application that the applicant would make that's managed by BC through their hearings examiner, and it would be the same notice requirements as a rezoning, so adjacent property owners, and then there'd be a hearing and a chance to speak.
Okay. And so public would have an opportunity to engage, but at that same time, there's a possibility that it could be denied if there's enough protest, or, it's a possibility. How does that impact the rezoning and what the trajectory of this project is? Just, risk management.
It wouldn't impact the rezoning if this commission approves, or if city council approves the rezoning upon the recommendation of this commission PED, that would proceed on its own course. The conditional use, it could be, some projects they don't apply immediately. It could be a year later or something like that, depending on the project. So it wouldn't be contingent on one or the other. They need the R5 to be able to apply for the conditional use, obviously, but.
And the site would just remain in R5 parcel.
Or the commission could rezone it back if there was a concern with a different development coming in under R5.
Okay.
With the PD, it would be tied to the site plan, so to change that then would require the modification process that you've seen, where they come in with the approved PD and they request those changes to the PD, so it's a little different under that.
And the PD would permit the use as a part of the PD, and it wouldn't have to go through the conditional land use process.
Correct, and it would also eliminate any potential variances that they may need for development standards, such as building height and other things, parking. So the PD process, there is that benefit as well.
And if there were to be further changes to the site in the future, that would require a formal, lighter or greater modification of the PD, and that's handled in that process versus just kind of administrative site plan changes.
Correct, yeah. There's the minor and the major modification. So the minor is something staff can look at on its own if it's a very small change, but if it's a significant change, then we would send it to CPC and council typically.
Okay. So this is just my only comment as it relates to PD and R5. You know, if it doesn't work out on the conditional land use side, then everything that we've done just kind of, it's done, but it doesn't serve the greater purpose, which it was intended. But I think the PD option kind of ensures that if it is supported, it gets done, you know, with less risk of entitlements and things like that not happening. How you decide which one is best, I'll kind of leave that up to staff, but I think that's an important factor in determining which designation you go for. What has enough input that the public is heard and their concerns are reflected in the project versus what is more of a long-term land use decision. Do you just have that R5 remain because it didn't get its conditional land use? And now what do we do? The roads changed, all that is done, but the intent of what was supposed to happen didn't happen. So if you could just think about that and bring some insight on the thought behind that process.
Yeah, we can bring more information on the PD option to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, I will continue this item. This is a public hearing. As typical with our public hearings, it's an opportunity for the public to engage with the project and provide input as they relate to the questions or information they've heard this evening. There are two ways to participate. If you are here in person, we have yellow comment cards here. You can fill those out and get them to staff. Ms. Swed in the back, you could raise your hand. She'll probably be the one accepting those. And then if you wish to participate virtually, you can express your desire to do so by raising your hand within the Zoom platform, and then we'll move you over to provide comment. Also, as customary, everyone has 2 minutes, and we have a few items left on the agenda, so I will hold everyone to their 2 minutes. I apologize in advance if I have to cut you short. And when your name is called, if you could step to the podium to my left and your right, and then we can proceed from there. I'll call 2 people up at a time in person, and if you could kind of stagger yourselves, that will make this go by a little bit more efficiently. The first name I have is Glenda Cooper, followed by Elizabeth Loge, and then Ruth Bird will be on deck. And whenever you're ready, there's a microphone in front of you with a red light on it. If you just tap that light, it'll turn green, and then you can speak into the microphone.
Hello, my name is Glenda Cooper, and I have lived in and around the Jefferson Chalmers area. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Area for the last 50 plus years.
Okay, start the
and for
timer.
the last 35, I've been the pastor's wife at Safe Hope Church. And I heard, I had an opportunity to listen. We were not informed of what was going on with this pumping station. And I just want to talk about land use. We have an opportunity right now to correct something that we can get it right this time. The last time they didn't do it right. I'm just going to tell you guys, it wasn't done right. And because the Tennessee used to extend all the way to Connors, it doesn't anymore. And now they're cutting off the other end. So you're reducing our community, and you're asking us to pay for it. And so this project, and it's also us having to reroute how we go about and do things within that community, how we pick up and drop off. These are all errors that could have been, they could have come to us and explained. And we're not averse to, because we know about that pumping station. All you have to do is stand on the berm, and you can smell sour gas any evening, okay? And he was talking about no smells. When those pumps come on, the entire ground shakes. Don't tell me how far it is in the ground. That's a good thought, but it impacts us. Don't tell us it doesn't impact. How the land is used around us impacts us. And I don't want to go over my 2 minutes, but we are not happy campers at Jeff Chalmers.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Loge.
Like Glenn, I've been a resident for a long time in the community. It's a unique community, as I'm sure you know. When I look at the land use section of the Jefferson Chalmers Development Plan that addresses like vehicular circulation, it is noted that Frood is one of the feeders to and from the boundary streets of Connor Clare Point. 3 of the 4 east-west feeder streets are already blocked at the east end by Fox Creek. And of the 4 streets, only Frood is easily accessible from Connor Clare Point. Now, this project has already disrupted traffic on Frood at the west end and will continue to do so for many months to come. And it will have a detrimental effect on the residents of this community by increasing traffic on the north-south streets where they live and by making access for emergency vehicles more difficult. Frood is an artery, a lifeline for this community that should not be disrupted. And if it's approved in its current form, we will once again see the wants and needs for a historically abused minority population being ignored once again. Now, after everything that this neighborhood has been through, especially since the financial and foreclosure crisis around 2009, then we had the floods, which I understand this is trying to address, I get that. But the manner in which it's being done is disruptive and inappropriate. You know, things were beginning to get better, but the type of industrial use of this project simply does not comport with the vision that this community has for the future. And the community feels used and abused by this project.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Ruth Bird, followed by Nicole, and then Gwendolyn Peoples will be on deck.
I just wanted to speak to the danger of the entire project. One day there wasn't a big gaping hole, and now there's, what did he say, a 90-foot hole in the street at the end of Algonquin and Frood. And for people who have to walk, that is of definite danger and a public safety hazard. I remember when baby Jessica fell down the well, and he said it's gonna be unmanned. I don't wanna be Gustav Gloop stuck in the tube 90 feet down and nobody knows that I'm there. And wait for every couple of hours for some man to come by and see if something's happening. The way that it's being handled, they're not talking to anybody. They're just doing things, and there's nobody to complain to. He says there's a number. Yes, there's a number, but good luck talking to somebody and getting an answer or a response or any timely action. And the bad signage. I just want to the construction and the bad signage. It's not even on GPS. So if you need to drive around or if you need to get non-emergency medical transportation, good luck with that, because they can't find your house, because they can't do the streets, or the street is blocked off just for these couple hours. And there's no, you get more notice when they're gonna clean the streets than they do to shut the streets down. And they're gonna do this for the next 4 years? That's all.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicole. And
Good
then,
evening. My name's Nicole Stone. Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Gleewood, we've the way that you have done this is I guess if nobody shows up, then you can just do whatever you want to do. It has not been clear enough. It's funny, these people own this church on the block and they don't even know about it. That should tell you a little something about how much you've made anything noticeable. So we've asked that you identify the alternatives to provide the necessary services that the facility provides, and also ask you for the way traffic is supposed to be, a study on that, you never provided that. And then also, if you did do another area of where you could have put this facility, we wanted to see that too. Maybe, I mean, you wouldn't have had so many roadblocks, and you could have had the facility up. I mean, at 138 million, I'm pretty sure you could have got more money, or come up with another plan. So we want to help and service other places that are having backups and get their water done right and have our things done right, but I think we can do this another way, and we want more ways that you can come up with of you stay out of our neighborhood. It's too small over there. I don't know why you didn't go by Stellantis or over in that area and did it that way, but I think we need to go back to the drawing board to see how we can do this better. That way everybody gets what they want, especially if we have to pay for it. I'm not even understanding that part. But yeah, I think we still got more to talk about, and it's not just to go in and do this thing and nobody's gonna say anything. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Swed, do we have any hands virtually?
Chair, we do. I believe that we have 8 hands currently.
8 hands. Okay. We'll go ahead and close further public comment with those 8, and then we'll continue with what we have here in person. Ms. Peoples, whenever you're ready, followed by Vanessa Cartwright and Jalea Harris, I believe, if I'm getting that right. You'll be on deck. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Peoples.
Thank you. I'd like to say to the proposed Great Lakes Water Authority, I guess the word authority means you have the right to do what you want in our community. This community, Jefferson Chalmers, have stated in several meetings held on holy ground, which are our churches, that this project will have a significant adverse impact on the environment, such as the air we breathe, the water we drink, our soil, and the noise level, which is definitely an impact on the residents during a long time of construction. Nothing was wrong with the existing pumping station that's in our community. However, there were significant human and technological failures in June of 2021. And no one have been held accountable for the impact that was placed on our community. We understand the need to upgrade the system, but not in a way that will harm our community. 2021, the water level reached a peak. It rained all day. We were forewarned. Everybody knew it. And automation of the pumping station didn't work. The news showed when workers were sent to the open floodgates and no one had a key, a fob, a magic wand to open the gate. We didn't have a flood. We had a sewage drainage backup. No human eyes were present. You engaged us. We said no. We told you that it was not feasible to do this project with the amount of money that you want to spend. You live in a community, and I'm sure if you
Ms.
engage
Peoples, I'm
your
sorry.
people, they would
Your
say
2
no.
minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The proposal amended already has and will significantly adverse impacts on our property in the vicinity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Harris and Imani Kelly.
This project is not suitable. This project is not suitable. This project is not suitable for the existing zoning classification and
does not comply with the proposed land use. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jocelyn Harris.
Good evening.
Good Good evening.
I'm Jocelyn Harris. Have been a longtime resident, opportunity to serve right now with the D4 CAC. Our main intent is to make sure that our residents are protected and their voices are heard, and not only heard, but they are acted on. You've been hearing the voice of some of the residents. I serve the District 4 as chair, and believe me, we take every issue that the residents bring forth serious. Excuse me. The fact is that I am really perturbed, I'll use that word, because in my retirement, I have opportunity to read. And going on my home computer, I looked at what is it called, Wikipedia? Because some of the board members said, hey, do you realize that what they're doing is very illegal? There's a potential for an illegal action that you all have an opportunity to stop. This is spot zoning. I'm a child of Black Bottom. I've been learning all my life about how things can happen quickly with people that do not take the concerns of the people that are most impacted at heart. Spot zoning is the application of zoning to a specific parcel or parcels of land within a larger zoned area when the rezoning is usually at odds with the city's master plan and current zoning restrictions. Spot zoning may be ruled invalid or arbitrary or unreasonable treatment of a limited parcel of land by a local zoning ordinance. I understand. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Air.
I apologize. That is your 2 minutes, and I got to cut you short.
Oh, really?
I'm sorry.
Will Wright. I would love to submit this as evidence, something to be thought about, spot zoning.
Yes,
Thank
please. If you can, Ms. Sweat, when you get a moment, I know you're helping out, but if you can coordinate with her so we can get that down. Thank you.
Can you copy? Please.
All right. I do have 2 more cards, but I just want to make sure I captured everyone here in the audience that wanted to participate and provide comment on this particular item. Okay, I think I got them all. So can we move to online and start moving hands over, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Our first caller online is Ethelyn Carroll, and they should be able to unmute now.
Hello, welcome.
Oh, hi. It wasn't for this segment. I believe that you were going to have a segment on the Southwest Fight Club after this. So I'll reserve my comment for at that time.
Yes, during general public comment. Yes. Yep. We'll come back. I'll announce when we have public comment, general
Okay.
public comment, and then you can join then.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our next caller is Toinu R.
Okay. Hello, welcome.
Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, my name is Toyner Reeves. I'm a PhD candidate in economics at the University of Michigan, and I'm also a lifelong resident of Jefferson Chalmers. I just wanted to say that the economic impact study, I think, is lacking very much. I think, in fact, to be sincere, without being rude, I think it's a little bit sloppy. So one of the statements that was made earlier is that that this is a prime location because it's not displacing anybody and doesn't have a significant cost to it. But if you look at the opportunity cost of future development, I think that you have to consider that when making a comprehensive decision. Take, for example, if you were to create or to put a pumping station in the Cass Corridor 20 years ago. It would have been very cheap land and it would have been something that wouldn't have displaced anybody. But consider trying to put that pumping station there today, considering all the development that's happened there. And so what happens when you put this pumping station in Jefferson Chalmers, you're foregoing the opportunity of economic development in the future. And so you're not considering all that's being displaced there for future earnings and for future development. I'll also say, and I think that I would like to say that to the members of the commission and also to the members of GLEWA, you have to do a much better job at considering those impact studies. Second, I'd like to consider the cost of compromising the public trust. As Ms. People spoke earlier, we're very much aware that in the 50 years that I've lived there, there's not been any significant flooding or anything like that happened. But in the decade or so since GLEWA took over, you had two significant lapses in the use of the facility. That wasn't because of not the pumping station that's not there. It was because of not handling the station the way that it was handled prior to GLEWA taking over it. And so now you've defaulted twice on a loan, and you're asking for a third loan from the people, and we're simply not interested in that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our next caller is no eminent domain for solar farms. They should be able to unmute now.
Hello, welcome.
Good
Hello?
evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, great. I second the emotion. I really like what the last caller said. I'm a returning resident to the city of Detroit, and I must say I am absolutely astounded at the callousness of this government towards the most impacted residents. That was a human error in June of 2021. And this to me is like not the right idea. Why can't we get money from the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever to separate the storm water from the sewer water? This is just a Band-Aid that's easy for you to vote on, just like that ill-advised, not well thought out solar plan. Sure, they're not taking your home. Sure, this won't be right next to you. You won't have to smell it or risk falling down the hole. And I'm speaking in fight or flight. I've been traumatized by stuff being secretly planned, shoved down our throats, and the local people didn't matter. I also question whether some of the people who live right there should be allowed to speak as long as they want. I suspect you're violating their due process rights. They should have the opportunity to speak as long as what it matters to them, it seems to me. But again, this is a callous government. That's what I find over and over and over again. The people right there don't matter. There are some people who have some serious evidence of voter fraud that has not been debunked. And I am beginning to believe that we live in a banana republic. And that is why this city government, the council, just doesn't listen to the people. Now, I'd also like to ask you to go watch a movie called How to Make a Major City Go Solar, because what that solar vote was so bad. We can do solar without pushing people out, and you shouldn't do this to people in this neighborhood. Separate.
All right. Thank you for participating. I apologize. We had to cut you short. Ms. Sweat, can we go to our next person, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair, our next caller is Georgia Crawford Campbell. They should be able to unmute now.
Welcome, Ms. Campbell. You can unmute yourself. All right, let's table this one and go to the next one, and then we'll give her a chance at the end.
Mr. Chair, our next caller is Michelle Jackson. They should be able to unmute now.
Hello, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Michelle Jackson. I am here representing, actually, I'm the chair for the CAC District 4 Work Group for Land and Environment. And speaking to the residents in the Jefferson Chalmers area, there's been a number of questions to see why Wheeler is still doing work and have not been approved for the zoning change. Property have been bought, work is being done, and really the residents are not sure if work is supposed to be continuing in the area
without coming before you and getting approval. A number of issues have been raised and why folks are working and a number of construction jobs are happening, but really without the approval of the zoning change as of yet. So I'm not sure. I'm here to possibly get some answers to really take back to the constituents in the District 4 area as far as the committee, and really just would like to understand the process and how it works. And if Gleela is allowed to continue to do work, mobilize and do construction in that particular area without having the necessary zoning change as of yet. So I don't know how to get those particular answers, but if you could tell me, I definitely will follow up. And thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you. And just for the listening audience, well, we do aggregate these questions at the end of the public comment, and then we try to answer them, either staff or the applicants themselves. So we will make an attempt to get you those answers. Thank you. And can we go to our next caller, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Our next caller is James Jackson. They should be able to speak now.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, my name is James Jackson. I'm the acting chairperson for the Citizen District Council. One of the things the Citizen District Council has done over the years, we've been deactivated by the city of Detroit over in this area, but one of the things we've done over the years is mediate new development with the old residents. And there has been none of that done on this project. They're putting new municipal buildings in where residential homes were without regard for the residents that are going to have to stay there and look at the municipal buildings. I think you guys should make sure, Richie Harrison, you know about this. You should make sure that you guys make sure that the homeowners that are staying there are compensated, their homes are improved, because many of the homes have been beside another home. Now they're the main home that you see, and their facade on the homes is not up to par. I think you guys should make sure that you take care of the existing residents that are going to have to be there beside those new municipal buildings. You're going to have to take care of the sidewalks, the curbs, and the alleys, So I hope you can take care of that and make these homeowners that are going to stay there, that have been there for years, whole through this process. I realize now you spent quite a bit of money and you start digging, but just let's make sure that you take care of the area so that the people can stay there in peace and feel comfortable about staying there. Okay? Anybody wants to call me, it's 824-1370. I'm still here in Jeff Chalmers, and I appreciate call back. Richie, I know you.
All right. Thank you for calling. Can we move on to our next caller, please?
Mr. Chair, our next caller is Marcia Brune.
Okay.
She should be able to unmute now.
Welcome, Ms. Broom.
Yes, good evening. I'm speaking tonight in opposition to the proposed rezoning to R5. I have a long history with Jefferson Chalmers and efforts to revitalize and sustain the neighborhood, both as a staff member and former director of the City Planning Commission. I'd ask you to ask yourselves, if the pumping station was not proposed, would this site be a logical choice for R5 zoning? In R2, single and two-family dwellings are the only permitted uses as a matter of right, and those uses relate to residential uses, schools, greenhouses, urban farms, neighborhood centers. R5 permits multiple residential uses, but conditional uses are at a much higher intensity than in the R2 district. Pumping stations, filtration plants, motels, electric transformer stations. I'm opposed because the proposed rezoning fails to meet several of the criteria required for a rezoning to R5. First, it would effectively create a spot zone, R5, surrounded by R2. Secondly, the project cannot be properly blended into the district as required by the zoning ordinance. A 5-story rectangular building is totally out of scale with the 1 and 2-story homes in the surrounding area and located between 2 residential streets. It effectively cuts the neighborhood in two, both physically and visually. And finally, it would have an insignificant adverse impact on other property in the vicinity. There are vacant lots, but also intact streets of modest homes and newer homes constructed by the Development Corporation. For those reasons, the R2 is the appropriate zoning for the site at this time. And thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our next caller is caller ending in 181, and they should be able to unmute now.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, I got in late at missed your presentation. However, I know there was an engineer over in Jefferson Chalmers that was trying to give you good advice. You need to separate the sewer from the stormwater. That's what's needed to protect that community and, in fact, the whole city. They've done it in Toronto, supposedly in 3 phases. They separated all their stormwater from their sewer so that you don't have these sewage backups. It's one thing to get water in your basement, but sewage is a different problem. So you can let either what they used to do, I think, is let the people flood so they didn't have to pay a fine to the EPA for putting sewage into the river, which causes the algae blooms in Toledo. But this is just another stupid project, it sounds like, where you're just going to make sure that Grosse Pointe and other places don't flood, but they still have outputs, where they're putting sewage directly into the river. And I think that's what those outfalls are. They don't treat it. They just let it go in there. And it's just discouraging that the city of Detroit continues to not use the best thing that could be done. And by the way, Jefferson Chalmers was designated a flood area years ago. And so there was an idea that you had to put all this money into the seawalls, but that was a waste of money to put that much into that. What needs to be done is separate the sewers from the stormwater. And the water comes downhill. It's coming down to the river from uptown to downtown. So you're not going to solve.
All right. Thank you for your comment. Apologies. We have to cut you off at your 2-minute mark.
Mr. Chair, we're returning to Georgia Crawford Campbell. They should be able to unmute now.
Okay. Thank you. Hello. Welcome, Ms. Campbell. All right. Going once, Ms. Campbell. Twice. And 3 times. We'll keep it moving. And that does conclude our virtual commenters?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And I was given 1 card while we were doing our in-person comment, so we do have to call that individual forward. AJ King, you could step to the microphone and you can proceed when you're ready.
All right. Thank you for making some extra time at the end here to hear me out, because I want to bring up the point that GLEWA has been accused of it. It certainly seems like GLEWA has not spent enough time looking for the alternatives to provide the necessary services to the facility or for this project. I heard one of the representatives speak that they were afraid of stopping the flow any further up the lines, because then you'll have some unobstructed sewer going between that stoppage and the sanitation station, and water could go from water that's in the ground could seep into there, and that's still going to go down there. But if there is plans to update the infrastructure anyway, and plans to separate the storm water from the sewage water anyway, then you would need to know if that pipe has water dripping into it anyway. I mean, those problems have to be fixed anyway. It's better to be aware of how much water is getting in there, because it can be stopped. The sewage lines can be stopped further away, so it doesn't have to disrupt the neighborhood. It can be done in a way that doesn't have to disrupt other people. Get the job done. And they should spend more time looking into that. And in theory, also, the stormwater, there should be less stormwater going into that because there's a lot of vacant land north of Jefferson Avenue. The increase in stormwater probably comes from there being too much the expansion of the Stellantis plant. So you have ground that the water can't go into. It has to run off into the drains. There should be alternatives looked into managing the stormwater coming from the Stellantis plant before we look into these solutions that affect the neighborhood here. But we could be the city of innovation, but that's not what we're being now. Right now we're maintaining that one reputation we have of going forward with developments without enough input, and then we have to regret it a few years later. Anyways, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you. And that concludes all of our virtual and in-person comments, so I will go and close the public hearing for this item. And I do have a few questions, if you may, and then if you could fill in the gaps with anything you heard, we'll kind of go through there and go from there. Okay. One, I want to start with the street itself, and maybe staff, you may want to input in here as well. What is the status of the vacation, just in its life cycle?
It was approved by city council in July, but we don't have the details on what still needs to occur within the process or what that timing would be. But we'll reach out to DPW to try to get a better idea of next steps for that.
Okay.
And what that would look like. I don't know if it's on hold for any particular reason or if it's just standard, if it normally is, if they're just following normal process. So
right.
I believe right now, we can answer that utilities are doing work now, so that may relate to the process.
Okay. And it really just briefly high level, what's the process for a vacation?
It's a request of city council. It goes through the Public Health and Safety Standing Committee. A public hearing is not typically required.
You said a public hearing is not required?
Not typically required. It's not a process that CPC manages, obviously. That's coordinated between DPW and the law department. So there's a petition that's made to city council, goes to the PHS committee and then the city council for consideration. It's a fairly frequent request. You'll see it on committee agendas, and it does happen. It is somewhat routine action, more so maybe downtown, but for alleys and other things like that, for utilities. The fellowship PD development that you saw a few months ago, that went through a vacation process 10 years ago. That was completed, the development was delayed. It appears they're now coming back with the development. So sometimes there's gaps in time between when a street is vacated and when the development actually occurs.
Okay. And I'm just asking some contextual questions just for people that may not be aware of kind of the things that happened before we got to this scenario. And the work that is happening currently, can you explain the scope of the current work, either GLEWA or staff?
So currently the work that's occurring is DTE Gas is relocating their gas pipelines out of the current existing Fruit Street right-of-way. They're putting new gas lines in what will be the new right-of-way. DT Electric has also put up new poles to do the same with their assets through that area. They'll be placing them into what will be the new right-of-way for Fruit Street. Excuse me. And simultaneously, we're working with there's other overhead users that have leases on their lines, DT's lines, that they'll need to be moved as well.
So the current work that is happening is utility work in response to where utilities need to be related to the new vacation.
Correct.
So, and all of those things were, these are all actions following the vacation, not necessarily related to the request for rezoning and the development that is being proposed.
Correct. It's because of the vacation of the right-of-way.
Okay. So I just want to clarify. City Council said, okay, this is the request for vacation. They've approved it. And now this is the work to enact the road configuration and the utilities that is kind of in stone, as it sounds. That work is already kind of concrete. Okay.
Progressing currently, yes.
And is unrelated to the rezoning. Is that correct? Okay. Which I think gets back to Ms. Bruin's point, is that what we're really discussing now was the R2 designation currently and the suitability of the R5 designation with this current site. Is the current GLIWA use a use that is permitted by right in the R2 district?
No.
Does that make it currently a legally non-conforming use?
Do you mean for the existing pump station?
Yeah, the existing pump station.
It would likely be a legally non-conforming. We could pull the permit history and records from BC, but if it was built in 54, they may not have records, but we could look into that. It's likely a non-conforming.
Okay, which would mean if they want to make any expansions or repairs, not repairs, but expansions to that current site's layout, they would not be able to do so because they're not legally conforming.
It would be up to BC. They manage that process. So there is a process for non-conforming uses or structures to be able to expand if they petition. It would just depend on the details of what that looked like, if there was a physical expansion or other type of change.
Is the current conformity status of that site related to the vacation at all?
No, that's on private.
Yeah, unrelated. Okay. Make sure I get all these questions out.
Mr. Chair, I should have mentioned too. Yep. Through the vacation process, utilities are contacted, so they're given the chance to object or comment, and coordinate with the city agencies on what it would mean to them individually. AT&T moving lines, DTE moving lines. So that is coordinated through that process, primarily through that process. So.
And as it relates to complaints and concerns related to the current construction around the street and utilities, who's responsible for handling those concerns?
We've received some complaints and have forwarded those to GLIWA. I don't know if there's a better city contact, but it may be GLIWA they provided some contact information, so that might be the most direct route. Otherwise, BC or DPW would likely be involved in that.
Are these GLIWA's contractors doing the utility and road work?
So with the vacation dedication process, as Eric mentioned, it goes through to all the utility holders. Before it can even go through the process to public health and safety, they have to approve that. So we've issued contracts with them to relocate their assets, but the contractors that are performing the work are hired by DTE, AT&T, or others.
Okay.
There have been a couple issues that are the responsibility of the utilities, but we've worked with CPC when they've got those to try to mediate between the groups to handle those as quickly as possible.
Okay. And I'm asking these questions again because I heard questions about there's work being done and there are complaints, and I just want to pinpoint on where the source of this work is coming from and who would be the right channels to communicate to. So these are utility contractors that are currently doing work. GLIWA is not currently doing any work.
No, we're not doing any physical work. We have set up trailers on site and stuff our contractor has, but we're not performing any of the work that is being done right now.
Okay. Thank you. Someone mentioned that this was a municipal building. From GLIWA's perspective, is GLIWA constructing a municipal building or is this private? What kind of classification would you put this under?
So we classify our pump stations as I believe that we typically consider them as an industrial facility. It's a pump station. It is an unmanned facility. I wouldn't call it a municipal building because we're not actually staffing it. There's not going to be people full-time occupying it, but it is a municipal service station that is going to be providing service for that facility.
Okay, thank you. Does the current road, the proposed road configuration and the vacation, does that independent of the vacation and this, I'm sorry, independent of the rezoning and this new facility, support repair work to that facility? Does the new configuration make repairs more easy, feasible, possible?
The not necessarily. We have to have the pumping station to actually be able to do the work.
Okay. The road configuration doesn't impact the ability to do repairs. That is
because
still,
the sewers are still so far down.
sewers are still concerned. Okay. Someone brought up vibration and that there are concerns about current vibration. What is the current depth of the pump today?
So the Connor Creek pump station is, I believe, approximately, what is that, Paul? 75 feet? Let me just, give me 1 second.
75 to 85 feet. I believe that one's 87 feet. The new one will be 75.
So two things that I want to touch on that. So the Fruit pump station is a different style of pump configuration than the new proposed station that we're talking about. Besides the fact that these are two BGD type size pumps, they're significantly different in size. These pumps sit in dry wells, so they don't actually sit in the flow. They sit on a floor above where the sewer flow actually is.
Both of these pumps or just the?
Just the Fruit storm pump station.
Okay.
They sit above ground, but they're still 50 feet below ground.
Say that again.
So the pump station, I believe we have some graphics. We don't. So the way that these pump configuration are on the storm pump station, the sanitary sewer goes into the wet well at the bottom of the station. The motor itself sits at the bottom of the pump station. The rotating mechanism, let me say, sits at the bottom of the pump station. The motor that drives that sits at grade.
Gotcha. Okay.
But keep in mind that the motors are loud, but they are inside of a building. And there is vibration tolerances that we have that are very fine as well for the facility itself. So we're not talking at all about running the 2 BGD pump station. We're talking about running the 30 MGD pump station, which is 70 feet below, and the pump and the moving mechanism and the motor all are together for these size pumps, and they're actually going to be all in the water.
Okay. Which is 75.
Which is 75 feet deep.
Okay, so for clarification, the new system, the rotating mechanism, and the motor are 75 feet below grade.
That is correct.
The first station, you said the Fruit
storm pump station, the larger pump station.
The rotating mechanism is on the bottom, but the motor is at grade. So there is a physical difference between these two structures.
Significant difference, besides the fact that they're 10 times larger.
Okay. Do you have any studies or any information that, you said you have a vibration tolerance that speak to vibrations can be felt 100 feet, 200 feet, 10 feet. Do you have any of that information?
We do not have any study data as it relates to vibration. It is something that we can look into. We have vibration analysis on the pump itself that we may be able to look into to see how much that translates into the soil. Typically, it diminishes very quickly when it hits soil. So we will have to take a look at that and we can find out.
I think a concern of the residents is vibration. And if you can clarify or alleviate that this system is significantly different and why it's different and how they can observe that this is less impactful, if that's truly the case.
Appreciate it.
And last question. Yep, okay. Last staff question. When you bring this item back, can you speak to the larger vision of that Fruit Street corridor and its impacts on zoning? Is the kind of vision for it to remain an R2 corridor? What does that look like? Is there a potential for it to become something else? Is there a plan for it? Is it, can you just speak to that at all when you bring this item back? And I appreciate you for allowing me to download those questions on you. Any other? Yep, Commissioner Lewis, go right ahead.
I will make this very quick. When this matter came before us previously, I did ask staff whether or not this was a spot zoning. I received a response and I accepted that response, but given that the past director of CPC, very well-respected woman, Ms. Marsha Broom, has called in to indicate this is indeed a spot zoning, I would like something in writing as to why staff believes that it is not a spot zoning. And I know I've requested things in writing in the past. I'm going to be looking for this, because if this is a spot zoning, this is a moot point. Or could be a moot point, I don't know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis and Director Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Commissioner Lewis, just to clarify, as Mr. Fazzini indicated earlier, we will get to that formal determination as part of staff's assessment of it. One of the things, and I don't want to split hairs on this, but it is important to recognize courts make the determination as to whether or not something is a spot zone. I think as former CPC Director Brune is indicating, this certainly has the clear potential to be that. This is where we're making a distinction.
Thank you, Director Todd. And you know, I highly respect you and all of your responses. I would like to have this in writing before this commission makes a decision, because I don't want the commission to make a decision based on it not being spot zoning, only to later find out in a court system that it is.
And again, through the chair, as I indicated, that is what we intend to do as part of the criteria. Spot zoning is one of the criteria, so it will be addressed in the writing. And again, I'm only making the distinction in terms of what makes the determination. It is the courts. We must follow the best practices and guidelines in order to make that determination and our recommendation to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I want to
Thank
go
you,
to
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I want to go to Commissioner Udabi, and then, but first, Director Todd, can you just make sure I don't miss the point of privilege when we
Certainly.
get there?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll go to Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Udabi.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to start by showing so much gratitude for all the people who came in person and online and submitted public comment and like written information about the impact of this project on you and your neighborhood. I think it's so important to hear from you being on the ground and like in the community, because as someone who doesn't live in that neighborhood, I don't know. And I know that you are living that. You'll have to walk those streets, you'll have to go around the construction. So I think it is extremely, extremely valuable to have you here. So I just wanted to do a huge thank you for taking your time out on a Thursday night. And so I'm holding all of these resounding frustrations with the project. Also with hearing your presentations about the imperative to be able to ensure that these very old drainage pump or like sewage pumps or these pumping stations are taken care of. So I hold the impact of the community and hearing the maybe engineering imperative to make sure that these things don't fall into disrepair and harm the community even more if something disastrous were to happen, especially with more uncertain climate. I don't know what kind of rain we'll be getting in the future, but I would want your neighborhood to not be swept away. I might be editorializing a little bit there, but I also think that one of the comments about the opportunity cost is really important, and we also don't want to negatively impact this neighborhood. We want to be really thoughtful about development. I know in a larger context, so many communities in Detroit have been extremely harmed by big projects that folks have not had a say in, and they've had communities be wiped away. This is a tale as old as time, especially in this city, and I would hate to have this thriving community be harmed again. And so I think that there is a huge responsibility to do this project right. And I think that to do this right would not only be involving the community more in the production of it, but also supporting throughout construction if this does go through, because it will objectively be a bother, and hopefully it won't be a bother indefinitely, but like it will impact the folks who live there. And so I would love to encourage, with this big budget of a project, to use even a fraction of that to involve the community more, to bring them in, to figure out what they need to make this as seamless a transition as possible, so you can make sure that these pumping stations are all good to go and can be for decades to come, and also people aren't going to be harmed in the process. So I think that maybe also thinking about how you do the design and landscaping is a really great space to bring community in more and more. It sounds like those plans have not really gotten the go-ahead or excitement of the community yet, and there's maybe ways to make the building look like a home. There's maybe ways to add more landscaping and really make sure that there's a huge sound buffer through vegetation and like really thoughtfully designed landscapes. I don't know. But I think that the community would have a much better idea than I would of what they would want if this has to happen in this place. So thank you for your time, and thank you again to everyone sharing your experiences. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Udabi. Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification. I related to the discussion on spot zoning. As this is a consideration of to show R5 or PD, do it with the PD also sort of be in consideration of that spot zoning, or does that include PD or just the R5? Just was trying to
the clarification of spot zoning.
Yeah, spot zoning.
I think staff should provide both.
For both,
You know,
okay.
if R5 is spot zone or if PD is a spot zone. I think that would impact the answer, the decision as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I was thinking the same thing. Any more questions? Yep. Commissioner Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When you first started, you said there were three things that the community was concerned about. I think one was the smell, the noise, and what was the third one?
Facade of the building.
Facade.
And the exterior.
But based on the comments I heard tonight, it's more than three. A lot of things going on that probably that would need to be addressed. Because the community, they're there, they live there, they've been there for years, and this is a major undertaking. There's going to be a lot of disruptions. So I don't know how often you guys have meetings, or are you alerting all the neighbors or letting the folks know in that community, are we having a meeting on this day at this location? I mean, it should be something that they know about so they could participate. Because what I heard tonight, some folks don't even know you're having meetings. So there's a miscommunication somewhere that needs to be addressed. Because they're going to make everybody happy. Everybody's not going to get what they want, but at least get them more involved so they can articulate what their issues are. You try to work it out. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just follow up to that comment. You know, the request before us is R5 or PD. And if it goes forward as R5, you still have a similar public hearing at the conditional land use. So kind of regardless, in either scenario, you should definitely maintain and build that relationship with the community and make sure they're, you know, in the mix and they understand and they're confident with what's going on. And, you know, we heard a lot of clarification on who's responsible for what. I think that community needs to understand who's responsible for what, because it sounds like they're blaming everything that's happening on you, whether it's your responsibility or not. And that's a breakdown in just your communication. So I think, you know, that needs to be clarified in your meetings going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, couple things. So as it relates to the utility relocation, as Paul indicated, is the contractors of the utility. But at the end of the day, it is a GLWA job. So it is something that Paul gets involved every time there is that communication, and we take the responsibility. It is our responsibility to make sure that that job site is safe. It is our contractor's responsibility to make sure that job site is safe and clean and accessible. I will say that one of the comments that was brought up as it relates to the excavation that's being done, that is part of the utility relocation. It is not nearly as deep as the shaft that will be installed as part of the construction project. But, you know, as an example, I drove that today, and there's jersey barriers, there's concrete barricades to make sure that that safety is there. I will also emphasize that this is GLWA's efforts to work with the community. I know there was a lot of concerns about closing off the Fruit Street right off the bat and trying to minimize that time that we were closed off. Originally, we had intended to close off Fruit Street so that we can do this work. Because we try to minimize the duration that Fruit Street will be closed, we kept one lane open and doing these type of strategic excavations so that we can maintain traffic. I also heard that there was a comment about traffic study that we did not respond to. At the December committee meeting that we hosted, we did review the results of the traffic study, and at which we did relocate the traffic outside the community. So now, where before we were traversing the traffic through the local streets, now it is going to Clarepoint to Jefferson and then back down. So
During construction.
this is for construction when we close off Fruit Street to do the
And
actual
when you're
project.
done, it'll just go back through.
Then after it's done, Fruit Street will be back, everything will be back to normal as it relates to traffic management. The other item that I also heard as well was around environmental impact associated with the project. Again, it's the purpose of us to try to minimize any potential harm is through building a structure that will enclose everything within that structure. Now, there's construction activities that happen, there's dust, there is things that happen from construction, but that is going to be managed through best practices that we will be monitoring to make sure that there's dust control, there's street sweeping, and everything else that's necessary. We communicate, our current marker is about a half-mile radius. So our mailers, our door knockers are going to within a half-mile radius of the station. So we are trying to make sure that we are reaching adjacent residents to ensure that they are attendant at the community engagement meeting. And we do plan, I guess if this is a public hearing, I want to make sure that everybody understands that at the next event that we will be hosting, we do plan on getting more in depth into the design of the facility and the facade and the landscaping and the different opportunities that are available to us, so that we can work with the community to shape the structure to the best of our abilities. So that is identified. Finally, the two clarifications I wanted also not let by. One of them is as it relates to the 2021 rain event. Great Lakes Water Authority initiated a third-party independent investigation to determine the cause of the 2021 rain event. And the cause was found to be the size and the volume of water that was introduced. The storm event that occurred, it was a 1,000-year storm. Our facilities, our infrastructure is nowhere near that size to be able to handle that. Our design standard is a 10-year, 24-hour capacity. So anything above that, there is no chance that we will be able to move that water out of the system if we were able to. And then finally, as it relates to the designation of the pump station, as you indicated, what would I declare that? I do want to have an opportunity to go back to see what Frood and Connor and Fairview and our other 9 pump station has been clarified, because this still is the same as those facilities. So I do want to have an opportunity to work with my team to find out exactly what those designations were, if they were actually a municipal facility, because they were built under DWSD time. So I would appreciate that.
Thank you. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. All right. I don't see, we have one more, Commissioner Daniels. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a couple of questions. Now, is DLEWA responsible for all the RFPs that's going to go out in order to do this work?
That is correct.
And how many Detroit-based businesses are being targeted or letting know about this particular project?
So we have already awarded the contractor for this project.
Is it Detroit based?
The contractor has a Detroit office. However, it's in Taylor. It's actually in Taylor. I apologize. However, as part of our bidding process, so this is just the prime contractor. This is Kokosing, our prime contractor that's responsible, but they are not going to be the ones that are going to do all the work. There's utility relocation, there's mechanical work, there's electrical work. As part of our bidding process, we do have small business requirements we do have minority-based requirements. So the contractor does have subcontractors within its bid package that are local Detroit-based, have been doing work within Detroit for a long time. These are actual requirements within our bidding process, not only for GLWA, but because this is a federally funded project, it also is required by federal funding. So the contractor is required to subcontract and utilize small business, disadvantaged business, and that is part of their requirement as part of their overall project.
Do you know how many companies actually submitted an RFP for this project, or no?
5 contractors.
Were any of them Detroit-based?
I don't believe so.
Hmm.
So again, because it's a $138 million project, these are very large specialty type projects. So these type of contracts, you have to have experience building water and sewer infrastructure. It's not your typical administrative building or an office building type structure. So for the large primes that are, they're Michigan based, but they're not necessarily Detroit based. But most of these primes have 10, 15 subcontractors that supports them, if not more, on a project, painters, different types of activities that you're familiar with. So those ones are, we don't have the specific stats, but they are required to have a percentage of their contracts.
And if they don't have them, is there a penalty they have to pay? 'Cause I know what project was that, the Ford Field, where the contractor said, well, we don't have any minorities, so we're going to just pay the fine. And they didn't have any minorities or Detroit-based companies involved in that project. I think it was Ford Field, could have been commercial.
I'm not familiar with a fine process, but I am familiar with that, the requirements, and we have not had an issue being able to acquire contractors that are local based. But we have not reviewed that level of detail with the contractor to make those determinations. But as part of, in my past experience of doing projects, we have not had issues finding the different subcontracts within these large projects that have disadvantaged opportunities or small business opportunities.
And just, if you can you tell us who the contractor is in Taylor?
Yeah, it's Kokosing Industrial.
Who?
Kokosing Industrial.
Okay. As far as the community groups go, you may want to consider getting with the police precinct for that area. There's a community relations officer. He knows all the black clubs, all the neighborhood organizations that exist in that area, and maybe reach out to the leadership of those organizations so that they can know about the meetings dealing with this new project that you guys are trying to do down there. I think that'd be advantageous, and the community would say, well, we were notified. But just putting out flyers, because I get a flyer on my door, it's right in the trash, like most people do. Some people say no handbills, they don't look at it like that. So I would suggest you consider getting with the community relations officer at the local precinct and letting them know that you'd like to get a list or be put in touch with. And they even have community relations meetings that you might want to go there and participate and let them know what's going on. That way you can get the word out.
Thank you for that direction. We have been meeting with the district forces and group and trying to coordinate on any issues. The team has been making attempts on a monthly to be able to meet, to be able to understand any voice concerns or anything like that, but we will definitely expand that reach more.
Yeah, I think you get a lot more bang for the buck, if you will, if you do that, because people want to know what's going on. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. Director Top.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to go back to the issue of spot zone and make a correction and clarification with my remark with respect to what was, to the question again, re-raised by Commissioner Lewis. The difference is between a spot zone and an illegal spot zone, just to be clear for everyone.
Thank you for that clarification. I thought I was done, but I had 2 more questions, maybe 3, but I think they're pretty simple. You presented 3 alternatives. Do any of those alternatives address the need for repair in the future to your existing, for that existing pump station?
The alternatives were the creator of the isolation to do the improvement.
To do the improvements, okay, gotcha. Do you have any examples of this type of structure anywhere else?
Absolutely, yeah. We have facilities that are currently designed, and there's others outside of City of Detroit that other municipalities operate as well that we can share.
Do you have any examples that you can share that are residential adjacent?
I believe let us take a look.
Yeah.
We'll work with our team to figure out. I will say that if I gave an example like Connor Creek Pump Station that is down the street, or the Fruit Pump Station that's there today, one of the, as working with the team, one of the comments that came up is why this facility is 10, 20 times the size of capacity, but footprint-wise, it appears to be about the same. A lot of that has to do with new industry standards, new design requirements, new tolerances that's expected. So you can't build the same way you used to build in 1955. So a lot of the infrastructure that we have, and if I go to other municipalities, majority of the infrastructure is built in 100 years ago and has been maintained. There are new infrastructures, and we will look into that. But I did want to emphasize that, that could be a common question of, well, why are we building the same size station, but it's only got a tenth of the capacity? And that is mostly due to the design requirements that are the modern design requirements.
Okay. And do you often find, maybe often may not be the right word, but do you find yourself upgrading these older stations with this new isolation approach, adding isolation?
So, as I indicated, in Connor Creek, we're going to be doing that. But fortunately, we have a sanitary pump station adjacent to it, so we're able to divert the flow. So, yes, in areas where we have not had isolation, but most of our pump stations do have isolation in one way or another available to them.
Okay, thank you. And this is a staff question, and then I promise I am done. In the PD process, post, an approved, well, I guess during, is there additional public hearings in that PD process?
Yeah, for the major modification, it would be just like a rezoning application, so it would be similar to this process if they were approved for PD and making a significant change.
And I don't know if this is the official site plan, but if it were to go through a PD process, that would have to come back to us with a site plan, or is there another series of meetings that would happen where that gets addressed? Just, can you remind me on how procedurally what that would look like?
Typically, it's through it would be through this process
In
that
this
you would
same
review,
process.
that you would look at the details of the site plan for.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, I'm good. Thank you. All right, I think that's all of our questions, and we spent a lot of time on this item. So again, I think we're all really appreciative that you hung out with us and were able to answer all of our questions in detail. Staff, thank you. I want to acknowledge the point of privilege, and then I'll ask this closing question for staff. So, can you just introduce? They're virtual? Can you can introduce them? Go ahead. All right.
Mr. Chair, the point of privilege you're speaking to is Councilmember Johnson has joined us, and she would like the opportunity to address the commission.
Okay. Welcome, Councilwoman Johnson. Whenever you're ready, you can proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your amazing questions. Thank you especially to the community for showing up and addressing your concerns. I do want to share a few things. My team and I have hosted 3 meetings relative to this topic, and we continued adding meetings because we weren't seeing a lot of residents attending those meetings to be involved in the conversation. But I'm glad to hear all of your concerns this evening. I would love to connect with you all so that we have continual conversations about this and anything else that may come up in the future for your community. I do want to say one thing before I ask the question. I had an opportunity to meet with Ms. Cartwright. She was very modest in her public comment this evening, but she expressed a number of concerns, and she is maybe the person who's closest to the site currently. And so I will make sure that I reach out to the Great Lakes Water Authority and have a conversation specifically as it relates to her concerns, as well as everyone else's that I've heard this evening. To the Great Lakes Water Authority, this is essentially a question for DWSD and to the Great Lakes Water Authority, partially a question asked by the chairman. As it relates to when I've been involved in this conversation, my immediate thought is focused on relieving the Jefferson Chalmers residents of the basement backups that they've had since 2014. There have been numerous ones. And that's where my immediate thought goes to. And so recently I had a conversation and wondered if, as the Detroit Water and Sewage Department is upsizing pipes in the Jefferson Chalmers community, is there an opportunity to have an outlet directly to the Detroit River with screening that removes the concern of basement backups when we have heavy storms in the springtime or in the fall, and within that, recognizing the need for maintenance of the Frood pump station. What are the alternative methods of improving and maintaining that pumping station? And it sounds like the commission may have received some information that I have not received at this point. And so as you all return in February, I would love to look at doing those two things adjacent to one another and just making sure they're in tandem to address the issues that the residents have without harming the community, and also ensuring that the pumping station can be improved and maintained in perpetuity. I appreciate the point of privilege and thank you all so much. Didn't mean to add any more time to this conversation, but just wanted to add that to the conversation so that in February, hopefully there is a response relative to that so that we can ensure we're not continuing to harm the Jefferson Chalmers residents, but addressing the issues that they've been having relative to basement backups. Thank you all again so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We appreciate your input and comments. And Director Todd, I just have one more question before we officially close this item up. Because there may still be some determination on R5 versus PD, do we need to continue the public hearing to allow staff to kind of consolidate to a decision, or do we close it and then address it later? What's the kind of best way to go forward?
Mr. Chair, I think at this point, it would be best to close the hearing. As Mr. Fazzini alluded to earlier, as we've continued to sort of consider the possibility of the PD, there are so many issues associated with it, just as there are, as has been alluded to with the R5. I think that if that is indeed the route that we go, we will probably be looking to start over on this process.
Gotcha. Okay. And I asked that question, but I think I did already officially close the public hearing. So I guess that will conclude this item for this evening. Again, thank you both for coming this evening and entertaining us with our questions and providing us with the detailed answers you did. And we look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. All right. Thank you. Fellow commissioners, that was a bit of a heavy one. Do we want to take a break? 5 minutes while everyone clears out? Yep. Okay. So it is 8:18. We'll just say good numbers at 8:25. We'll resume to the call of the chair. Thank you.